we were being earnest, but they were not being earnest. They were lying to us. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having a lovely, wonderful, fantastic day. Folks. In my last video, I just let it slip. I mentioned for just a moment that what I thought was going to be my new home might not longer be my new home, and in fact turns out that it is not going to be my new home. I got so many comments. They're like, tell me what happened. So I am here to give you guys an update on the not new house, because we're not moving there, so it's not our new home anymore. And let me tell y'all, like this is a mess. It truly is a mess, and as sad as I am that we are not going to be moving into what I thought was going to be like my future home, my forever home with my husband and my boys, I'm also happy to be out of it, because I feel like this truly would have been a disaster if we would have ended up getting the house. We're going to be getting into all the updates on that, but very quickly, I have to update you guys on Tater. I feel like I need to anytime something like comes up. Unfortunately, something else has come up, so just gotta clip my bangs out of my face. So as you guys know, Tater suffers from epilepsy and he has grand mal seizures. They're pretty severe, they're pretty violent, and when he does have them, he has many of them in a row. So he has cluster seizures, so he goes to like the emergency vet when he has them because they're incredibly dangerous. So unfortunately, even though we have adjusted medications a few times now, we've upped his medications, we've added medications, he did have another seizure, two actually back to back the other night. So he did have to go back on seizure watch and back to the emergency vet. These seizures were so close together. This is the closest that they've been together since he started them. They're 50 minutes apart, which sounds kind of far apart, but before we were seeing seizures like, you know, 2, 3, 4 hours apart, and these were like right back to back. He hadn't even really recovered from the first one yet, so we took him back to the emergency vet, and now he is on another medication. He's on potassium bromide. They have upped his phenobarbital from 2 times a day to 3 times a day, and he has to go get his blood levels checked because that medication can be super dangerous for their liver. So we have to go back to get those levels checked. And the big thing is, like, the vets are they're nervous. They're really nervous. They say that they're very concerned because he is so young, he's on so many medications, and the seizures are not being controlled to where they would like them. Unfortunately, the time frame between his seizures this time was only 24 days. We were really hoping it would be longer because the last time it was 45 days. So I was like, man, like maybe we can get like a few months before the next seizure, which would be considered controlled, but that is not the case. Because they are not being controlled with medications, all these medications that he's on, everything that we're doing, we are going to be setting up an appointment with a neurologist, and that'll either be in Louisville or Cincinnati. I don't have one closer to where I live. Even like the biggest city closest to me, there's not a neurologist for pets. So we're gonna have to travel probably about an hour and a half away, which isn't too bad. I'm a little bit worried. That's probably the longest car ride he'll ever take, and we're going somewhere unfamiliar, and he doesn't really do well at the doctor's office. They did give him some stuff for anxiety though, because he has really bad anxiety, so we can give him some of that before we go, which, I mean, I'm always concerned for him. I'm constantly worried and concerned. My anxiety is like peak through the roof, especially after he has another episode. Like my anxiety is just like, I can't handle it, not sleeping again. So I'm incredibly concerned. I'm incredibly concerned that they're going to find something when we take him to the neurologist, because they're going to do MRIs and CT scans, and if they find anything on his brain, they can't do anything. They said it would be palliative care, so there's not really any surgery or anything they can do, but I'm really hoping that's not the case, and maybe he's just, you know, he's a tough nut to crack when it comes to his seizures. I'm hoping it's just, you know, we haven't found the right mixture and dosage of medication just yet, and everything will be okay. But yeah, that is the next step we are taking. We're taking him to a neurologist to get scans and see what they say. So anyway, little Tater update before we move on into the house story, which is gonna take up like this whole time. I'm so sorry. I'm probably gonna talk far too long about this, because I am definitely very frustrated, but also a little bit relieved, I guess, because if things had gone differently, it would have been a disaster. By the way, I'm gonna be trying out some of this stuff from Auric Beauty, Samantha Ravindell's brand. They sent this to me a while ago, like a good long while ago, and I just found it, but it's so beautiful. The packaging is gorgeous. All of this stuff is just like so thought out. So I really wanted to go ahead and give it a try. These little thingies, they say they're glow lust, and I think it like goes into your makeup, or yeah, it says wear alone, mix with complexion product, or finish your look for a long lasting radiance. So I think I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit into my foundation. They sent a couple of different shades, and I have no idea which one is me. That might be tan me. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this house drama. So I hate to use the word scammed, but I truly think we were like scam, conned, bamboozled out of our new house. we've been misled like this entire time. And I kind of was just like, oh, it's okay, up until like the very last straw. A lot of things had happened that I was like, everything is okay. I don't really care to like work around a couple of these few little issues. Like, even though we're gonna have to make a couple of sacrifices, which I'll get to those issues before I get to the big issue, you know, it'll be fine because I like the house. The location was fantastic. Like, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things that were really great about the house, so I was really willing to like look past a lot of stuff until we get to the end. So where we last left off in the house story is a big issue that came up. We found out that the basement was going to need a whole new wall, and it turns out building a whole new wall in a basement is quite expensive. So we came to the owner and we were like, hey, this basement needs a $10,000 wall. It needs 30,000 pounds of concrete poured into it because the foundation, the block foundation, is cracking and like bowing. So we came to him with that, and I was honestly afraid that he was not gonna do anything about it, or he was gonna like try to walk away from the deal or something. But what he agreed to do was pay for half of the wall. We had given him an estimate that it was gonna be between $9,000 and $10,000, probably closer to the $10,000 side. He agreed to pay for $4,500 of this basement wall, and the way that we were going to do that is we were going to take it off the purchase price. That dropped the purchase price down from $405,000 to $400,500, so $45 coming off. Also, I have an entire video that leads up to all of this. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check that out first. So once we heard back that he was okay with paying for half the wall, honestly, I was happy. I was happy with that. I was like, great, you know, like I still hate to have to pay $5,000 for a wall. But we basically got him like $49,500 off the asking price, which I thought was pretty good. Again, love the location, a double lot, half an acre, like great. Everything was great. So he signed off on that. My realtor sent us the paperwork, we signed off, and like we were all good. We were gonna move forward. And when I mean that we were gonna move forward, like I was picking out stuff, right? So I was picking out paint colors. I was looking at paint colors for the outside exterior because there's actually still a lot of work that we wanted to do. I was looking at like rugs and chandeliers and all these different things because like we were going to buy this house. Didn't think there was an issue. We had my dad's friend walk through, like all the electrical, plumbing, all that looked great. The furnace was great. So besides that wall in the basement, like we thought everything was like okie dokie. I feel like I should have known that everything wasn't gonna be okie dokie though, because we had honestly been a little misled up to this point. We wanted to build a deck off the back because when you walk out like the double doors that are in the Eden area of the kitchen, there's like a step and then you're grass. Nothing there. Not a patio, not a deck, nothing. Grass. So we're like, this obviously needs some type of surface so you're not just stepping onto like wet ground. So my dad, because he's an intelligent man, see, if I didn't have my dad through all of this, my husband and I had been like, yeah, the kitchen's pretty, let's go ahead and let's buy it. I wouldn't have known nothing. Sure, we'd have gotten an inspection, they might have mentioned the wall, but everything else, no, we wouldn't have known anything else. My dad was very, very adamant that we needed the setbacks and easements, which I didn't even know were a thing, of where we were allowed to build and where we were not allowed to build. So apparently there are things I can tell you how close you're allowed to build to the property line, right? An actual structure. Turns out you can't build within 35 feet of the back line of the house. The backyard of the house is like this big. The side yard is massive. But in the backyard, when you open up that kitchen door, you can build out like maybe 3 feet and then you can't. That means no decks because that is a structural load-bearing thing. No coverings, no awnings, nothing. So we were wondering like why this walked out just to grass. It's because you actually can't build there. However, if we didn't look into that for ourselves, we would have just gone in under the word of the seller that you could build back there because he told us two things. One, he said he was gonna build a deck in the back. He said he was gonna build a deck in the back and it would be fine. Second, this house has no garage. It has no outside storage. There's not a carport. There's not a covering, nothing. It's just like a rectangle sitting on grass. So we told him like, you know, okay, well, we're gonna need some place to put like a lawnmower or something like that. Maybe a car if it rains or something. So we had told him those plans, and as we were trying to get like the setbacks and easements, because they didn't have anything on record since like 1957, he said to his realtor, which we have the screenshot of like his conversation with her, that he looked into building a garage 3 years ago and he was going to build it from the back of the driveway, which would have then extended well past the back property line. And he said there was absolutely no issue with it whatsoever, no issue whatsoever at all, because he made it seem like he had actually like gone to the city, tried to get a permit, something like that, and there wasn't an issue. But there was an issue. At this point, we wouldn't have been able to build a garage, carport, deck, overhang anything on the back part of the house. We could build a garage on the other side, but unfortunately, there's no road there. So like we could like drive over the curb into our grass to our driveway. But that was like a little thing. We're like, okay, you know what? We'll work with it. Like, that's not a big deal. He said that we would be able to build a deck in a garage, but like we can't. No big deal. We called the city to ask if we could have at least like a poured patio or something in the back, and they said, okay, yeah, a poured patio, that should be fine. It's not like a structural load bearing, like you have to get permits and people have to come out and test it and whatever. So we're like, okay, patio, great. Like, see, that was a little thing. That little like being misled was just like a little thing. And then I forgot that they also said in the listing for Zillow, they were like, ooh, there's unfinished attic space and you can convert it into a living space. Turns out, you can't. You can't unless you really went up there and like put a lot of money into it and reinforced the floor joints and like tried to bring electric and everything up there, because according to code the joists have to be like a certain thickness, and these were 2x6s, and they would not be sturdy enough to hold up like, you know, living people and things. It's fine for storage, but like you can't turn it into a living space according to code. So that was just another like little thing. So at this point, like, we would have a hard time redoing the attic. We wouldn't be able to build all the stuff we want to on the outside. We had to put a $10,000 wall into the basement. Like, there was a lot of little stuff leading up to the biggest problem. So a few days ago, I got a call from my dad, and I could tell like he just did not sound like himself. And I was like, Dad, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, okay, you don't sound great, but okay. And then he had called me back a little bit later, and he was like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. I'm just gonna swing by real fast. I have something to tell you. He stopped by and he came into the house, and he was like, okay, so I was out at the new house. I was walking off the perimeter because he was measuring for potentially building the patio and like painting the exterior. And my dad, being in construction for a long time, he has a fairly good idea of how many feet things are from just like him stepping. He was like walking around the perimeter, and he was like, that just doesn't seem right, because we thought we were purchasing a 2,750 square foot home. But as he was walking it off, he was like, there's not enough feet. Like, I'm missing a lot of feet here. So he goes and actually measures it. Turns out the perimeter of the home, keep in mind, it is literally just a rectangle. There's no like offsets or anything that could be, you know, miscalculated. So he measures, right? And he's coming back with like 2240, also known as like 500 square feet less than the house is listed for. 500 square feet less than we were going to pay $400,000 for. So he went and called our realtor, and when I had spoken to him earlier and he didn't sound quite right, it's because he was waiting to hear back from her. She had gone to the PVA, or requested the PVA document, which is like the Property Value Association, and I have, I guess, the records of all the property values, including like, you know, square footage and land size, that kind of thing. So the PVA comes back, and the house is 2,240 square feet, aka 500 square feet less than the advertised square footage. Not even just like the advertised square footage on Zillow, like the actual information that we were handed, the seller signed off on, it was on there. It was on there. But that was wrong. It was wrong. That is a huge difference. To put it into perspective, 500 square feet is 20% of the total square footage of the house. Now, granted, it's not like 500 square feet disappeared overnight. We were still fine with the size of the house. It's just that if we had paid $400,000 for this house, thinking that it was 2,750 square feet, which was like $146 per square foot, which for the area, the age of the home condition, everything is at the high end. Between 145 and 150 is like the top end for my area per square feet for this type of home. We would have been overpaying by $80,000. We would have been $80,000 in the hole. So say at some point we did try to sell this house, and we're thinking, oh, it's worth this much money now because we've been here for a few years, so it's gone up in price. We're selling it at 2,750 square feet. You know, it'll be fine. But no, because the value of the home is much less than 2,750 square feet. We just were unaware of that because the seller said, everything said, the realtor said that it was much more square footage than it actually is. So in talking to my dad and talking to my realtor, they kept saying like this might be actually a good thing for us because it's obviously going to appraise for a lot less than they have it listed for because it's so much less square footage. But the thing is, like, I knew in my head that he was not going to come down to where we needed it to be, to where we would still get like the same price per square footage that we were willing to pay for the house, if that makes sense. So because we were willing to pay like $146 per square foot, I mean, it literally dropped it down to like $326,000. And I knew that there was going to be no way he was going to take a price that low, because he had also told us, and this is also all from my perspective. I do not have his story, so everything is alleged here. This is all from my side. He's not here to say anything, so I can only present this information from how it is perceived from my side. So he had said through his realtor that he had put $265,000 into this house, and that didn't include, I'm assuming, the purchase price of the home. And I was like, there's just no way he is going to come down to $326,000, even though that is what the home would likely appraise for, because my dad is friends with an appraiser. Of course he is. So he kind of called, gave him the situation, gave him the numbers, and he was like, yeah, like he was like, that's about it. So I'm kind of like freaking out at this point, because I'm just like, I know he's not gonna take what we would have to give him for this house, because he just has too much into it. Even though $265,000 seems like a whole lot to not have a finished basement, no laundry room. There was just a hookup next to like a sump pump hole in the floor with water in it next to the furnace. No laundry room, no garage, no outdoor space. You know, there is still a lot that needed to be done, and we're willing to do that because we thought we were getting an okay price for the house, the lot, the location. Finding out that it was 20% smaller, therefore 20% less valuable than we had originally assumed or been told, was kind of a bummer. That was a pretty big bummer. We're talking with my realtor, and she was like, I'll do whatever you guys want to do. And we're like, okay, we need a couple more things from the seller. First of all, we need to know if they're even willing to work on the price. Are they willing to negotiate the price at all? Second, this was a big point that my dad brought up that I didn't think of. We didn't know who did the electrical work, if the electric was ever like inspected, if it was a certified electrician who did all the electrical work. Because apparently there's supposed to be like stickers, you know, next to like electrical boxes and things that say like, hey, this electrician who is certified inspected this, and everything's like a-okay, but nothing in the house had any sticker on it that said that a certified electrician had looked at it or done the work. So we asked them about that, and we asked them again, you know, like, are you willing to work with us? And I feel like there was something else. And our realtor got back to us, and she told us a couple of things. So one, apparently they were willing to work with us on the price. They didn't seem happy about it. It didn't seem like that was the thing that they really wanted to do. The realtor for the seller didn't seem to like us very much, and probably potentially the seller either. So one thing that was said by the realtor was that she said it was our fault that we didn't check the square footage of the house. It was our fault that we just took their word for it that the house was the square footage that it's supposed to be. The realtor showed us a message that she had sent to her, and she said something along the lines of, they've been in that house how many times and they didn't realize the square footage was wrong? At this point, we had been to the house 2 times with our realtor, you know, because we're about to pay $400,000 for something. We could see it probably more than once, I think is okay, but no, we didn't think to, you know, measure out the feet as we were in there looking at it, because we just assumed that you had done your job and actually, you know, listed the correct square footage. That's something I never thought to question. Not for a second. Oh yeah, that was the other question. We're like, where'd you get the square footage from? Who told you it was that amount of square footage? And you know what the guy said? We have a screenshot of like him saying this to his realtor. He said that the information was passed down to him by his father, who owned the house before, and he did an unscientific measurement, and that's how he came to the approximation of 2,750 square feet. And then I guess his realtor just took his word for it, and they're like, yep, okay, that's how big it is. Slap it on all the important documents that we're about to sign with our signatures. So he literally just was like, I think it's about 270. My pops told me that, you know, 20, 30 years ago, and we're going with it. Which my realtor was a little bit upset with his realtor, because she said that should have been her due diligence to make sure that the house was the size that it was supposed to be. So they said basically like, oh, it's your fault that you didn't know that we were telling the truth about the size of the house, and that we were past our 7-day window. So basically like, if they want to walk, we're keeping their $1,000 earnest money, because we put in $1,000 earnest money that said that we would purchase the home if there weren't any issues found within that 7 days. Well, it had been past that 7-day window, but even getting an inspection, they're not gonna look at the square footage of the home. They don't measure square footage. That would have happened with the appraisal that would have come getting the mortgage. If the bank had required an appraisal, I don't know if they would, because my dad was being super generous and he was gonna let us borrow against stock and do all this other kind of stuff, so it wasn't super traditional the way that we were gonna get the loan. It also would have been a super fast loan, because once we'd have sold this house, we would have paid it off. So the only way that we would have known at all if the house was, you know, incorrect square footage is during the appraisal, which would have happened after the inspection period anyway. So yeah, the realtor wasn't too happy with us, and apparently Tater? Okay, sorry. Anytime I hear a noise, like at all whatsoever, I panic. He's fine though. He's just sleeping in his bed. Okay, so the realtor wasn't happy with us, and apparently the seller wasn't happy with us either because he refused to meet with us. Communication was just so strained. Like they still hadn't gotten back to us about who did the electricity. My realtor said that they just weren't able to tell them who did the electric or who inspected it. So that's a red flag. Oh, and also the realtor told us that the reason it was off by 500 square feet is because they weren't including the 500 square feet in the basement. The fully unfinished basement, the absolutely not at all finished basement with no windows or no doors that you cannot count as living space, that's where the other 500 feet are coming from. All the electric is exposed in the ceilings. Like I said, there's no windows. They had been blocked up. There's no door. There's just a sump pump hole in the floor with water in it, and there's a crumbling basement wall. So like, it's not the basement. It literally, legally cannot be the basement. So that was just another fib. They came out of the blue with that information, and then they tried to say that the PVA was wrong. Like the whole administration that does property values and tells you how much your property is worth and knows the square footage, she tried to say that they were wrong. And at this point, I was getting so skeptical about the house. I was getting so upset because we had already been told all this stuff that like wasn't possible with the house. We were being lied to about the square footage. Like I was getting really upset with it. And I knew like there's no way he was gonna come down to where it would need to be for us to get it for a reasonable price. Plus we were gonna put like more money into it. We would have been in the hole by like $150,000 by the time we were done with this if we paid $405,000 for it. So basically like Jeremy and I talked about it for a long time, and we finally decided like we're gonna have to walk. We're gonna have to walk. He had given them the $1,000, and I was like, listen, even if we lose our $1,000, which would suck, you know, that's a whole medical expense for Tater, like that's a lot of money. It would be better to walk than be stuck with something and overpay by so much money. I mean, so much money. We just told our realtor like we're gonna have to walk. I typed out a whole big thing to her, and I was like, listen, we can try to get the earnest money back. If we can't, I understand. We're just gonna have to walk away. But she is so sweet and so nice. She's like, I'm gonna do everything I can to get your earnest money back for you, because we were being earnest, but they were not being earnest. They were lying to us. The seller and the realtor were both digging their heels in and telling us that we were wrong, even though we had facts in front of us. We had receipts in front of us to show them that they were indeed wrong. They were just being dishonest about this entire thing. You know, she was like, I'm gonna fight for you and I'm gonna get your money back. And she did, buddy. She did. She's so nice. She's the best. I feel like I need to buy her a dinner or some flowers or something. Oh, it's Tater time. He needs medicine. I'll be right back. So we got our $1,000 back, and we got out of the contract, and we walked away from the house. And honestly, like as sad as I am about losing the house and all the potential the house had, I think it's for the best, because listen, I'm a little bit nosy, so I can't help but keep like track of the house. So I keep looking back at Zillow to see, well, one, if they've changed the square footage, if they've actually changed it to be what it truly is, because I don't want another couple or another person to be scammed. Because at this point, like if it was an earnest mistake and he was like, oh man, I really, you know, that's what my dad said years ago and that's just what I assumed it was, like, I'm so sorry that you were misled on the Zillow listing and also on all the actual documents. It would have been totally different. But this person is doubling, tripling down on the square footage, and I think he is scrambling at this point. So I've been going back and looking at Zillow to keep track of things, and I saw that they had taken the house off the market. So the house has been removed off the market, at least from any type of realtor's hands. However, it is now for sale by owner. So he has taken it off like Zillow, that kind of thing, and it's out of the hands of the realtor that at least it was in before. I don't know if he's going to move to another realty company, but right now it's for sale by owner. I don't know what happened between him and his realtor. I don't know if they were like, hey, because this house is not the correct square footage, we're gonna have to list it for the right square footage, and he was like, no. Again, all this is just me speculating, alleged, that kind of stuff. But as soon as that happened, he took it off the market. He put it up for sale by owner, and then he put his own Zillow listing up. And in that Zillow listing, I'm just gonna read you a little bit. And this is what I mean by like tripling down on this. He says the Z estimate is grossly wrong based on old, incomplete, and incorrect data. As an example, Zillow says this is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath property of 2,200 square feet of living space. All these facts are wrong. I'm actually a little bit confused about that part, because Zillow doesn't say anything about 2,200 square feet anywhere, and it never has, as long as I've seen this listing. So I don't know what he's talking about. Other other information is wrong as well. This house is a 5-bedroom, 3 full bath property with approximately 2,750 square feet. He's going on here and doubling down on it. I'm a little bit upset about that because, like, you know, there's gonna be another set of people come along and be convinced that this house is much larger than it is and they might be willing to pay that price without realizing how much it is, especially if it's for sale by owner and they're not using a realtor. Like, I don't really know how all of that works at some point if they're going to figure out that it's smaller than they say it is anyway. But that's why I feel like we were being like a little bit scammed, bamboozled, conned a little bit, is because he was so kind of desperate to sell his house to us. And at first I thought that was just really sweet. I thought he just really wanted us to have the house. But as soon as our offer fell through, like, he yanked that thing off the market for sale by owner. It just seems very scammy now. But like, you gotta be honest about it. You gotta tell people what the actual square footage is. Like, that's a very important detail. That's not a small detail. If he's being like kind of apologetic about it, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you know, that's just the information that I had, that's just what I thought it was, let's look into this, we're gonna get an appraisal, we'll make sure we get the right size so we can like settle on a real price, that would have been so different. But for him to like refuse to meet with us, the realtor, to tell us that it's our fault that you know, we just didn't assume they were lying about the square footage, you know, all these different things, they just got so defensive and like kind of angry about it from the start. So that's where it gets like really shady, and that's what's incredibly frustrating to me, because I truly thought like at first he really did just want us to have the house because he gave us a story of like, oh, my parents and I we wanted somebody who's gonna love the house. And I was like, yeah, like we would love the house. I thought he was really moved by my letter. Like, I thought all of these things. And now I'm just like, oh, I think he was just maybe pretty desperate to sell the house because it had been on the market for like 2 years. So at this point, that's it. That's it. I am not finished with my makeup yet. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and finish this up real fast. I'm just gonna finish my eyeliner, put on some mascara, and then I'll be right back. All right, so the makeup is all done. I'm really sorry that I was distracted while I was putting on my makeup and I didn't really finish in time. I was just trying to get all the details of the story in, and I probably got a little worked up and I probably repeated myself too many times. But that's it. That's what happened with what was supposed to be mine and my husband and my boys' new home. We are no longer getting the new home. We're not getting it. We're just gonna stay here until I find a home that we are 100% confident in. After being misled that many times, you know, about little things at first, kind of like leading up to bigger things. I wasn't confident in the home. But there is one realty website that has updated like the listing for that home, even though it's off the market. They've updated the home and it does show the correct square footage. I hope nobody gets like, you know, taken going forward. I hope no one overpays for it. I just hope everybody the best. Again, this is only from my perspective. This is how I saw everything go down. Like, he might have a totally different view from a different perspective, and that is something that I cannot know and cannot share with you guys. So this is what happened like in my experience, and I cannot speak for anybody else. That's all I got for you guys today. That's my house update story. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so very much for watching. Also, thank you for all of your encouraging comments on my last few update videos. You guys are the absolute best. And I just hope you have a lovely, wonderful, fantastic day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!